Hello everyone, you are on the channel. It's funny to tears, and today we're diving into a story that proves some things are better left unheard. It's a tale of friendship, courage, and a karaoke performance so legendary, it's still whispered about in hushed, horrified tones. This is the story of my friend Leo and the karaoke disaster. It all started on a perfectly normal Friday night. The work week was finally over, and the air was thick with the sweet smell of freedom and pizza grease. My friends and I, that's me, Sarah, Mark, and the star of our show, Leo, decided to hit up a local karaoke bar called the Rusty Mike. It was one of those classic spots. Sticky floors, dim lighting, and a songbook that looked like it had survived a natural disaster. It was perfect. Now you need to understand something about Leo. Leo is the kind of guy who has an infectious, unwavering confidence in everything he does. Whether he's trying to assemble a flat-pack wardrobe with no instructions or explaining his theory on why pigeons walk so funny, he does it with 100% conviction. The only area where this confidence was, let's say, untested, was his singing. He'd hum along to the radio, sure, but we'd never heard him truly unleash his vocal talents. We were about to find out why. As we settled into our booth, the atmosphere was buzzing. We watched a few people get up and sing. There was a girl who did a surprisingly good Whitney Houston, followed by a guy who did a very emotional, very off-key rendition of a ballad we didn't recognize. The bar was supportive, applauding everyone with equal enthusiasm. It was a safe space. Or so we thought. After a couple of hours and some liquid courage, Mark nudged Leo. "Come on, Leo, it's your turn. You've been quiet all night. Pick a song." Sarah and I joined in, chanting his name. "Leo, Leo, Leo!" Leo, who had been looking unusually thoughtful, suddenly slammed his hand on the table, a glint of sheer determination in his eye. "You know what? You're right," he declared. "It's time." He strode purposefully towards the stage, grabbed the giant songbook and started flipping through it with the focus of a scholar deciphering ancient texts. We were all on the edge of our seats. What would he pick? A classic rock anthem? A smooth R&B jam? A cheesy 80s pop hit? The possibilities were endless. He returned to the table a few minutes later, a triumphant grin on his face. "I've chosen," he announced as if he'd just discovered the meaning of life. "What is it?" Sarah asked, leaning in. Leo puffed out his chest and said the two words that would change the course of our evening forever. Bohemian Rhapsody. A collective silence fell over our table. "Bohemian Rhapsody?" I squeaked. "The whole thing? All 6 minutes of it?" Mark just stared, his mouth slightly agape. "Leo, are you sure? That song has like 5 different parts. There's an opera section." Leo just waved a dismissive hand. "Don't worry," he said with that signature confidence. "I've got this. I've been practicing in the shower for years." We should have taken this as a warning sign. Shower acoustics can make anyone sound like a rock god. The real world, however, is far less forgiving. He handed his slip to the karaoke host, a grizzled man who looked like he'd seen it all. Even he raised an eyebrow when he saw the song choice, but he just shrugged and typed it into the system. The moment of truth was upon us. The iconic piano intro began to play. A hush fell over the bar. Leo took the stage, grabbed the microphone, and closed his eyes, getting into character. "Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?" he began. And honestly, it wasn't terrible. A little shaky, maybe, but he was hitting most of the notes. We exchanged surprised glances. Maybe he could actually do this. The first verse went smoothly. He was feeling it, swaying back and forth, one hand gesturing dramatically. The crowd was with him, nodding along. Sarah whispered, "He's actually not bad." Our initial fear was turning into genuine pride. We were cheering him on, our little group of supporters in the corner, but then, the song builds. The intensity grows. And as the first guitar solo kicked in, Leo decided it was time to add some air guitar to his performance. This was his first mistake. He was so engrossed in his imaginary fretwork that he nearly missed his cue to come back in. He fumbled with the mic, and the next line came out as a startled yelp. The crowd chuckled a bit, but it was all in good fun. The real trouble started with the opera section. You know the part. "I see a little silhouette of a man." Leo took a deep breath, ready to tackle the high notes. What came out of his mouth was not a falsetto. It was a sound I can only describe as a cat being startled by a vacuum cleaner. It was a high-pitched, strangled squeal that made the speakers crackle. The entire bar froze. People stopped their conversations. The bartender stopped pouring a drink. For a split second, there was absolute silence, broken only by Leo's continued ear-splitting attempts at the Galileo part. "Galileo! Galileo!" he shrieked, his face turning a worrying shade of crimson. At our table, we were trying our best not to completely lose it. Mark had buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with silent laughter. Sarah was biting her lip so hard I was worried she'd draw blood. I was trying to look supportive, but my face was contorting into a pained grimace that was probably not helping. But Leo, bless his heart, was completely oblivious. He was in the zone. He thought he was nailing it. He powered through the entire opera section with the same unwavering, screeching confidence. Magnifico o was a sound that will haunt my dreams for years to come. Then came the rock section, the headbanging part. Leo threw himself into it with reckless abandon. He was stomping. He was windmilling his arms. He was headbanging so hard I was worried he'd get a concussion. He was living his rock star fantasy. At one point, he swung the microphone stand around and nearly took out a woman sitting in the front row. She ducked just in time, her eyes wide with terror. He roared the final lines of the song, "Nothing really matters to me," and held the last note for an impossibly long time, his voice cracking and wavering until it faded into a pathetic wheeze. He finished his performance with a dramatic drop to one knee and threw his arm out, panting heavily. For a full 5 seconds, there was dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. The entire bar was just staring, stunned, at the spectacle they had just witnessed. Leo, still on one knee, slowly opened his eyes, expecting a thunderous ovation, and then one person started to clap. Slowly, then another, and another. And soon the entire bar erupted into the most confused, bewildered, yet somehow enthusiastic round of applause I have ever heard. People were laughing, they were cheering, they were shaking their heads in disbelief. They weren't clapping because it was good. They were clapping because it was an event. It was a performance that had transcended good or bad and entered the realm of pure, unadulterated entertainment. Leo stood up, took a bow, and walked back to our table like a conquering hero. He had the biggest, proudest smile on his face. "See?" he said, collapsing into the booth. "Told you I had it." We couldn't hold it in any longer. We all burst out laughing, tears streaming down our faces. "Leo," I managed to say between gasps, that was truly something." "Something is one word for it," Mark added, wiping his eyes. Leo just beamed. "I know, right? I really felt the emotion in that opera part." We didn't have the heart to tell him the truth. In his mind, he had just delivered a performance worthy of Wembley Stadium. And you know what? In a way, he had. He had given everyone in that bar a story they would tell for weeks. To this day, whenever we go back to the rusty mic, the karaoke host gives Leo a knowing look and a slight nod of respect. Leo has never sung Bohemian Rhapsody again. He says he doesn't want to tarnish the memory of his perfect performance. And honestly, I don't think any of us could survive a repeat. It was a one-time disaster piece, a beautiful, hilarious train wreck that we will never, ever forget. So what's the lesson here? Maybe it's that confidence is everything, or maybe it's that some songs should only be attempted by professionals, or maybe, just maybe, it's that the best memories are made when you're not afraid to look a little bit silly with your friends. Thanks so much for watching. If this story made you laugh, please hit that like button and subscribe to It's Funny to Tears for more stories that prove life is often the best comedy. Have you ever witnessed a karaoke disaster? Let me know in the comments below. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.